disruptions for this morning's program.
This meeting is being recorded.
We hope you're also free from any distractions that you may encounter. We ask that all questions be sent through the chat feature on the bottom of your screen, and we'll address during the open session. Also, if you do have questions, you can raise your hand and your question and comment will be addressed in a more immediately fashion. Because this program is being recorded, a copy of this program will be available to all registrants. Kelly Jackson and I will monitor the chat. And we do want to know who you are. So if you could please take a moment and rename your name if you haven't done so already, and include your company if you could. You can accomplish this by clicking on the upper right-hand corner of the video box and choose rename. As a reminder, we're a community of design and construction industry stakeholders with a common interest in the betterment of our region. Our planning committee has identified 4 pillars for our organization. They are innovation, continuing education, equity empowerment, and an all-inclusive workforce collaboration. I've previously mentioned that I'm the chair of the Training and Education Committee alongside Katie Goldberg with IMEG, our associate co-chair. We do lead a committee of 26 volunteers dedicated to deliver an exceptional education program each month. And so thank you to all our members, and a special thank you to our technology subcommittee team for coordinating this program today alongside, of course, the SLC3 staff. We always seek your evaluations at the conclusion of each program, so please take a couple of minutes to answer the few questions at the end. The program evaluations really help prepare our future programs and determine the overall value of our education and networking programs for the next year. Little head. We do take all of that evaluation seriously, and so if you could, help us improve, give us your honest feedback. Your support is important, and it only takes a few minutes of your time to respond. As always, we have a packed calendar designed to meet the needs of our full membership. We're sure you'll find a program and an event that'll meet your needs, and so please mark your calendars. A few of the events that you see on screen that are coming up, August 11th, we have our new normal in the workplace betterment or best practices at HOK. August 23rd, we have our annual best practices and inclusion gala. September 8th, we have our safety forum at LIUNA. And September 22nd, we have our owners roundtable and top owner concerns. Please note that this program is eligible for PDH and LU credits for 1.5 hours. The certification is available under our resources on the SLC3 website. Note that you can find the PDH and LU forms from past events as well as handouts and more under this same tab. Please be sure to visit our website regularly to great resources and updates on these events. Before our program begins, we want to take the time to give a special thanks to our annual training and education program sponsors. Our annual platinum sponsor is Cosney Wagner. We appreciate their top tier support each year. Our gold sponsors are McGrath and Associates, Ross and Barazzini, Kwame Building Group, and L. Keeley. And our silver sponsors are Farnsworth Group, Kaiser Electric, JF Electric, and Abna Engineering. OWH Architects, excuse me, Custom Engineering, and Hush Blackwell. Thank you to all of our sponsors. And now for our scheduled program. We are excited to offer this program of engaging in panel conversation with subject matter technology experts as we discuss the various perspectives and value outcomes for connecting technology to business strategies. Our panelists bring a diverse background of expertise as we explore their company value propositions and applications for technology use cases such as BIM, VDC, digital twins, field applications, cloud collaboration, prefabrication, autonomous and semi-autonomous devices, AI, remote sensors, and much more. We will also dig into some key areas and how their companies approach the people, process, and technology conversations internally as they advocate for change and challenges associated with emerging tech and evolution of the business practices from their traditional means. So let's get started. I'm going to ask that our moderator, Chris Link with CRB, do the honors. Before I do, you should know that Chris has over 20 years of design, CAD, BIM, and project management experience. He founded the St. Louis Revit User Group, and he did not hesitate to ask for to accept our request to moderate. So Chris, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you all for attending today. I am extremely excited about this panel. These are not only friends of mine that I've grown to know in the industry, but they're also some of the sharpest guys out there. So I'm very interested in kind of picking their brains on some of the insights on where they're taking their businesses and where they're going with technology. So extremely excited and just really love these guys and always love to learn. So this should be fun for us all. So let's start off and we'll do a little bit of introductions. Maybe we'll just go left or left or right on the slide there. You've got my bio there that Brandon gave. So Bill, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, Bill Carney. I'm the DLR Group's design technology leader. Unfortunately, I'm not sitting in St. Louis anymore. I moved in 2019 to Minnesota. So with DLR Group Design Technology, basically I help all of our disciplines figure out how to use technology to design. That can range from like Microsoft products into artificial intelligence. I also do still connect with St. Louis. I'm an adjunct professor at WashU as part of the construction management program. And I'm also a LinkedIn Learning content author. So happy to be here. Pass it off to Mike.
Thanks, Bill. Mike, you're next.
Yeah, so Mike Lawless, I'm Director of Innovation for IMEG. I sit here in St. Louis, but I cover the entire firm and all disciplines and really pushing us forward and our use of technology to advance our practice.
Awesome. Great. How about you, Dylan?
Dylan Blake, Murphy Company, BIM manager. We have a company here in St. Louis and also in Denver. We're a subcontractor. We do mechanical systems, plumbing, HVAC, and also pharmaceuticals.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. And finally, Mr. Alex.
All right. Thanks, Chris and gang. Alex Belcoffer, Virtual Design and Construction Director here at McCarthy Building Companies. Good to see a lot of familiar faces. Excited to talk about all things technology here today with you all and make it a great discussion.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. So we've kind of prepared a few questions to just kind of start the ball rolling. We'll have some good discussion and we'll make sure we leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end, just so that you guys can ask some pointed questions directly at our panelists. So let's get her started. So I guess the first question that I would have, and this is probably for all of you guys to answer, maybe with a brief answer, is what do you feel are some of the top technology influences that are driving the most value for your business at this moment? So what are the game-changing techs that you're applying in your business that are giving you guys the best value? Bill, let's start with you.
I mean, for us, there's like three big ones that I'm looking at with automation, BIM as a deliverable, and artificial intelligence. I think this summer really highlights like we have to do more with less. There's too much work, not enough people, and that's the problem of today. I think tomorrow too, though, automation is just a big key thing for us being viable. So I look to automate pretty much everything. DLR Group's got a 5-year vision goal of automate everything that we reasonably should. And kind of tangential with that, I think, to get to BIM as a deliverable, you have to have information on objects, and to make people actually do that, automation's kind of that like carrot that I dangle out there to get them to want to do it. My like pet project with artificial intelligence, I just think that the machine learning's ability to predict and suggest things is going to dramatically change everything that we do.
Awesome. That's great stuff, Bill. Yeah, let's move on to Dylan. What are you guys doing over there at Murphy?
So some of the stuff that we're doing that's kind of changing, I guess, the realm that we're in is we're moving into a program called Stratus, where it's direct download from our Revit models. So we're able to publish. It creates transparency to our project managers, and now we're also sharing it with our general contractors to pretty much track model tracking. So anybody can chime into our cloud model and be able to see where something's at, if it's fully coordinated, if it's in our shop, if it's on a trailer, if it's installed in the field. That's been a game changer for us lately.
Awesome. Mr. Lawless, how about you guys?
Sure. Similar to what Bill said, I think number one for us has been automation as far as the results that we're seeing currently. I think, you know, when you look at our industry, a lot of times, you know, Revit, BIM could be thought of as maybe a drawing tool, and now it really, you know, we're really starting to use it more and more as a design tool. And that, as Bill said, when you automate things and the data needs to be right, and you're using data to really drive your design, that can start to help really motivate people to care a little bit more about the model and the data to get it right so that you can automate. So, you know, we can get those repetitive tasks done better. We can have a single source of truth for data, which gives us, you know, better quality of documents when we put them out the door. So I think number one for us has been automation.
Awesome. Okay, great. Alex, what's McCarthy at?
Sure. Well, I think a different take on the single source of data that Mike just mentioned is what I like to call single source of collaboration. I feel like we're more than ever now in a very technology driven process, from all the way from, you know, pursuit and procuring projects to working together as a team, all the way through the construction into building operations. And so having more sources of collaboration, I feel like, is at a height in the industry at this moment. So my focus and where we're getting the most value is finding technologies that allow people to collaborate more in one place, or at least connecting sources of collaboration together. Whether that's model collaboration, reviewing deliverables in one place, connecting data sources, and being able to visualize data to make informed decisions across the project team. That's a huge focus of ours at the moment, especially as we work both regionally and nationally. Some of the other influences that I think are very intriguing, that we're doing a lot of testing on and looking for value, is semi-autonomous things, semi-autonomous robotics, looking at advanced reality capture. People like to throw around, you know, the term AI, artificial intelligence, but what does that really mean as it attaches itself more to these sources of collaboration? So we're very interested to kind of connect those dots right now between the value we get out of that source of collaboration and the value that we get out of some of these autonomous or semi-autonomous means to fuse together the human influences of our business.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's interesting what I'm hearing, right? You know, 10 years ago, we were focused on modeling, right? And now it sounds like all of the focus is more behind the data in the model. Really, that I in BIM is really starting to become the driver for how we get value out of the tools we use. So CRB is kind of in a similar boat, right? We're looking at earned value, target value delivery, and data handover as our big kind of pieces, right? Things that we're focusing on that provide value to not only our clients, but to our internal business as well. So interesting stuff. It's good. Okay, let's maybe take that one step further. So, you know, taking one or two of those major influencers that you have, can you highlight maybe some of the impacts of what that technology is doing in the way your firm conducts business or collaborates with other entities through the life cycle? How's it changed the way you do business, right? Let's see. Let's start with. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Bill, why don't you start?
Sure. And Alex gave so many statements that I just want to piggyback on within this one. So like single source of truth, that is a thing. But what's cool is, you know, in big data, it's like single sources of truth is where we're going. Like all of the things that we're working on are easily connectable. For our DLR group, every one of our active projects I can look at in one gigantic database, which lets us do some big things. When I think life cycle, I do think digital twin. I know it's a buzzword, but with digital twin, what that is at its core is the ability to process a lot of connected data points and show that back. For us, we're trying to stay viable as a design firm, as you know, fees get reduced and that sort of thing. How can we change business? And one of those things with digital twin is the ability to see how a building's being used. And if we want to do performance-based fee, we could never go into that and say, hey, we're going to reduce your energy consumption of your building and we'll take a 1% profit or whatever, you know, scenario you throw out there. But if we're actually tracking the building, we can say, oh, no, we actually did design within what we were supposed to do. If, you know, if the building's used differently than we designed it to, we can't prove out that that energy reduction that we designed for is correct. So I think that's a big one. And for me specifically, then I can take that same information of building use and start to fine tune the information for our next design project, because I don't just look at like averages of what's my average room size. I can actually look at what's the room that does this thing the best and is used the most. And I can find the traits of that and actually put that into the next design project.
I love that idea, Bill. The whole idea of being rewarded for your building performing the way that you intended the design to is a fantastic concept, and a great way to prove the fact that the design that you gave to the client is working and monitoring the way that it was originally intended. So that's great. Fantastic. Mike, how about you?
Sure. Obviously Bill and I have similar, similar viewpoints, similar kind of place we're coming from. I think the whole idea, and Bill talked about this, of the life cycle of a building. I think, in most design processes, you design it, you see how it works, you measure it, you take that data and you feed it back into your next design. And I think as we go forward, we're going to be able to aggregate, data from multiple buildings, as Bill talked about. But I think that focus on really completing the cycle and making sure that we're really getting the data and feeding it back into our design so that we can really predict how, the ultimate goal is to predict based on our design, based on the goals of the client, what their outcomes are, to say, hey, we have the data, here's our data set, we've designed it in this way, we're going to help you, through technology to oversee how that building operates, and then complete that loop through the life cycle of the building, bring it back, and then have it help us design the next building and continue to improve our designs. I think is, to me, that's where we need to head. And as Bill said, on the design side, continuing to be viable means, I think, continuing to impact the building throughout the life cycle.
Awesome. Alex, maybe give us a little more perspective, maybe from the GC and construction side on where you see this going.
Yeah, I'll take the nugget from Bill and Mike there. It's music to my ears, right? They're talking about good quality data and amazing things that we can do with it, right? Owners and design professionals that care about data can see some amazing results. And as the builder, right, it's awesome for us to walk into, the start of a project working together and talking about data, because it's going to mean something downstream, right? The percentage that always gets thrown out there, right? You spend 20% of your cost of a building during design and construction and 80% in the operation. And so with this data effort can yield some amazing results for that 80% if we work together as a team. So well-informed owners, design professionals like Bill and Mike that are doing those types of things with data early and really outlining what that data need could be, or what that could be downstream. As a builder, we walk into that situation and we can use a lot of that during not just the construction process, but in the handover, really to best put the client and the design team in a position for startup and really moving into the operation of the facility. So I see that trending really high right now, right? That's where I see value in digging into big data. And that way, when we say BIM, it's not just building information modeling anymore. There's also a notion out there of BIM as building information management. How can our downstream users take BIM for what we've always known it to be, but actually use it in the operation facility? So there's a lot to dig into there, but we'll get into some of that later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the critical piece, right? We collect so much data through the design and construction process that traditionally has kind of died on the vine or been handed over in a big set of binders to our owners, right? How do we make that data that we've collected on everything that we've put into this project and be able to hand it to an owner so that they can use it for lifecycle management? So I think that's the big one. So awesome. Let's move on to maybe question 3 here. So we obviously know that all of this technology causes pains and process changes and those kind of things inside your organization. So how do you address the people and process changes that have to occur in order for people to embrace this technology? Let's maybe start with Dylan on that one.
Yeah, so for us, as a mechanical contractor, we always live by if it's not broke, then don't fix it. And then if you end up being in that way, then you'll be left in the dust. So we've been, the biggest thing for us is we got to be adaptable, and we've got a lot of good people here that have been accepting that adaptation. You know, we think about the way that our process worked going from BIM to the shop to the field. The way that information usually got relayed was either via email or an Excel spreadsheet, or, you know, someone scratching something on a napkin and hoping it doesn't get lost. You know, times have changed, everything, you know, we were just talking about how everybody's collaborating. That's happening internally. You know, everything that everybody does, everybody touches, and everybody can see. So the way our processes have changed has been changed from going from Excel sheets to now we have QR codes. We have scanners, people scan them, and you can see everything that happens to that one piece. So technically, when you go out to a job site and you see a QR code on any of our stuff, you can scan it and you can actually see the physical lifespan of that part. You can see when it was bought, when it got to the shop, when it was put together, when it was on a piece of equipment, or when it was out in the field. You can see everything. So that's really how our processes have changed, and I'm sure they're going to keep changing as times go on.
Awesome. Bill, maybe expand a little bit on the design side, on where how you're addressing the people problem, so to speak.
Yeah, I take a more blunt statement than Dylan on you know, doing things the way you always do it. It's just people don't like change. Like the generic word for people, they don't like change. So you have to create reason for it. And so for me, it's one of those things of I said earlier, dangle a carrot. It's one of the common phrases that I just say all the time. I dangle carrots and plant seeds. And so what you do is you go around and you throw out a ton of ideas, and that's the spreading the seeds, planting seeds, and somebody's going to pick up that idea and start to grow it and start to push. And so then you put your effort into growing the plants that actually take and grow. And then the other thing you need to do is dangle the carrot to get the horse to go to water. And so that means put something in front of somebody that they care about. And so I have, for every single piece of technology that I even like in my ecosystem in any way, I know what that value proposition is, and not just one, but like 19 different versions of the same thing, because what is valuable to me is not what's valuable to the different people that are using it. So you got to be able to read people and understand like what this person cares about, and then present to them what it matters. And like very small changes, like I think earlier or Chris, you said we haven't really focused on modeling as much anymore, and we still do. It's just that like it there's too many other things, but with modeling, a small improvement leads to a big thing. So we've been tracking every custom tool we make, and we've been finding that using like a sheet making tool is saving us like $1 million a year, and it on like a fraction of our project. So this small thing that I can show, like just use this will save you. Like here's a big thing at the end, and tracking and showing it creates that value that I can show, and then I can build on to that.
Awesome. Good. Alex, maybe one more on this one.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on something that Bill was kind of saying there about, the people aspect of things. For me, I think a big healthy behavior at the beginning of projects is kind of taking that intentional pause just to understand each other and have that intentional kickoff conversation to like really find out what's valuable to people. Kind of like, don't just, work in your box, but work inside of other people's boxes, get what's going on in their brain. I think that's what makes us better, because then we can figure out what is really most valuable and then apply the right resources to those areas. And so, if people aren't concerned about, BIM use cases or definitions around that, then we're not going to waste time on that, right? We're going to focus on how we're going to be lean and continue to be effective as a unit and stitch the best technologies together. So I always like having that. I call it intentional partnering, right? Get to know Bill, get to know Mike at the start of a project, right? Understand what they got going on. And if they're doing something really awesome that could drive a ton of value, extract some of that early on as the project gets moving, so we can all maybe try to leverage that, right? So just talk about, commonalities, standards, best practices, things that we're all doing. I think it goes a long way, because then we can apply the right technologies and get the most value out of working together instead of, assuming things or trying to do our own thing and not know what other people are doing. So that healthy intentional partnership and respect at the beginning is big for us.
Yeah, that's a great concept, right? There's lots of people who have stuff figured out much better than we do, right? So being able to learn from them and gain from their experience and see where they're finding value in it, and then being able to support that on the project for the life cycle. So that's great. Okay, let's see. Question number 4. I think so, it looks like we're doing pretty good on time here. So, so what are the shiny objects, right? And trends out there in your space that you feel are getting lots of attention, that you feel that you may not have defined a value for them yet, but they're definitely things in your space that you want to look for. Let's start with Mike on this.
Sure. I think one of the things that we're seeing more and more of, and I think will, grow in the future, is augmented reality. We're using it, and there's some real specific use cases for it, but it's definitely something that's still has, I think, some growing to do. I think, sometimes there's a perception that maybe now you can put on some augmented reality glasses and walk throughout your whole large construction site and see everything in the model that's there, or what have you. And I think what we're seeing is some of that's just not quite there yet. We are seeing some definite specific use cases around, potentially virtual mock-ups and those things, but it's definitely something. There's some growing with that technology left to do.
Yeah, and it's funny because some of this technology, right, AR and VR on site, some of the tech that we're trying to apply to the job site ties directly to site connectivity, right? If you don't have a good internet connection, how do you use a lot of these tools on the construction site? So that's one of CRB's big focuses, is coming up with a way to make sure that all of our job sites are set up and have the same connectivity as you would if you were sitting in one of our offices. How about Alex on this?
Well, I'm gonna take the bait of what Bill had said earlier about digital twin, because that sure is getting used quite a bit lately. And all I'll say is I feel like that buzzword is a really awesome thing, as Bill kind of described, right? But everybody needs to kind of unpack that and figure out what a digital twin really should be for what their needs are. So it's just one to be aware of, right? I feel like digital twin is a lot like when BIM first came out back in the mid 2000s. So that's kind of the shiny object that I would say, be careful when someone says digital twin, like really seek to understand what they're looking to do and gain from that. Another one too is, there's a lot of vendors out there, a lot of emerging technologies, maybe more than there ever has been before. And a lot of that tech is in alpha or beta mode, as I would say. So just kind of be aware of that. We get hit up a ton, with a lot of industry vendors. They're looking to, sell us on something or on a concept. And, there's a lot of what we used to call BIM washing or sexy BIM marketing that's been out there. Some of these products really aren't ready for the market yet. They're really looking for pilot testers. So, it's hard for us to kind of decipher some of that. And it's a big part of what we do is vet and validate a lot of that technology. So a lot of great emerging tech out there, but, buyer beware, if you will. A lot of that stuff is still kind of early on in its development. So, consult your peers, consult your local technology professionals as you're looking at some of that stuff.
Awesome. Yep, great stuff. Let's do one more. Dylan, from the sub side, what are your shiny objects?
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Alex. We get a lot of stuff that comes across our emails and just to different people. I think literally the other day, I think some company reached out, and they reached out to every VP in the whole entire company talking about their product. So it's hard sometimes, because sometimes you go, okay, I'll bite, and you start looking into it and you start digging into it and you're like, okay, I'll ride this train. And then about 2 months later, another program comes out that does a little bit of the same thing, but maybe just a little bit better, but now you're already invested. So for us, we have all kinds of stuff. A lot of the stuff that we do is in our BIM department. So we get a lot of add-ins in the Revit, which add-ins are going to be the best. I think there for a little bit, we were trying to figure out, which ones we wanted to do. And we finally just drew a line in the sand, said, hey, we're sticking to these two, and that's it. So, and those decisions come from a steering committee. So like Alex said, no one just takes it right off the chest and says, hey, this is what we're going to do. We have to talk, we have to communicate, and we have to figure it out. And you definitely can get caught in the situation of that alpha and beta phase on the programs. It looks really great. And then when you get into it, you find out, you know, half the functions don't work. And then the company's looking for you for feedback on how to make it better. And you don't really realize that you're paying for their implementation. So for us at Murphy, I mean, we've just kind of been sticking to our guns as far as, you know, making sure everybody in the company is involved in that decision and pretty much just throwing it to the committee and making sure it's the direction we want to head.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are right on the money. I mean, I probably get 4 or 5 emails a day on new emerging tech. Some of it overlaps with tech that we're already using. Some of it's new, but there's a lot of it that's just in the development phase, right? And it's just hard to find that right balance between something that is ready for prime time or something that just has this crazy cool feature that you guys would really like to use, but there's no meat behind the rest of it.
Hey, Chris, real quick, one thing I know you and I talked about the other day that we're seeing a pretty big trend in, and may perk some interest some of the folks on the call here, advanced reality capture. And maybe that's a good thing to maybe highlight real fast. Many of you guys probably are using something along the lines of like a 360 photo dashboard or program to kind of capture field information. So when I say advanced reality capture, I'm kind of looking at what's beyond like multi-vista or what's beyond like structure site or open space. Anything you're seeing kind of in that area, I'll ask you the question as the moderator, because I'm seeing more of these advanced reality capture platforms pop up that are saying, oh yeah, we can take the model and the drawings and evaluate that against the photos, or bring in your laser scan files and you have this beautiful digital twin that's like, we can set it all up for you. Are you seeing some of that stuff from our conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the promise of, progress tracking through 360 photos, or, validating and doing, earned value tracking through 360 photos is kind of the promise. We're also seeing, Matterport become a real kind of player in our space as they add additional features where you can embed data with inside these 360 photo tours, so that at the end of the life cycle, maybe it's a handoff of a 360 tour that has all of the cut sheets and O&M manuals embedded on tags within the 360 photos. So there's lots of really cool tools that are pushing there. My concern is that we're not doing it in a kind of a common data environment, so that all of the data that you've collected through your design authoring tools and through your construction administration processes isn't finding its way into these tools for handover. So until that kind of marries and becomes a full-blown thing, and maybe that's Tandem, right? Alex, you and I have talked a little bit about Autodesk Tandem and where that's going. That may be the end game, but that digital twin is that elusive thing that we're all trying to get to, but no one's defined it yet. So, right, the owner needs to define what they want from a digital twin in order for us to adapt and make what they're asking for, right?
Yep.
Can I piggyback, Chris?
Sure, absolutely.
Something that I fear in that is like marketing's defining what is the digital twin, and like Matterport's one of those, like they've tagged themselves as digital twin, and it's
Agree.
like, there's what are we using it for? What is the output of it? And what's the capture method? Because a lot of those are tripod based and they're very slow. And like open space is as you walk around, it's capturing it. So there's a big difference in that ability. And then like, a tripod based laser scanner versus Navis VLX mobile scanner that's capturing LiDAR at a quality level. So I just hate when I see marketing driving so much of it, and it's like, well, no, it's not really doing anything other than stitching pictures together well, and like there's other things that are really powerful but with less marketing.
100% agree. 100% agree. And that's where I think Matterport has kind of taken their real estate capital and kind of tried to target it at AEC in calling their stuff digital twins. But you're right. There's not enough meat and data behind that, truthfully, to be called a digital twin, in my opinion. So, all right, let's move on. We got about 10 minutes before we leave some question, before we go to questions. Let's go to question 5. So how do these technology value propositions impact construction owners at the end of the day? So these guys that are sitting here on the call listening to us talk, where is the value proposition for them in this technology, and how do you address that for those end users and stakeholders? Bill, let's go ahead and start with you.
Lots of ways.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, one of my favorite exercises that I do is like basically to try to get everybody's head around the idea that what a designer does impacts construction and impacts the building owner. And so if you take like virtual reality as an example, like a design team is going to use virtual reality to understand the design of a space. Construction may use it to see how to install something or see where there's an issue in the field. And then we forget about the owner. And like that same thing, we can actually take to the building owner, and we can go and build like an augmented reality experience. DLR Group does like sports stadiums for one of our sectors, and I always picture like Pokemon Go in the stadium, because we have this 3D model. It's actually really easy for us to make place-based stuff. And so if we start talking about, hey, I'm doing this construction, how could you use that? And then we talk about what little bit of a tweak we need to do to share, and then construction into ownership and all the way around. And I think that we get quite a bit out of it.
Awesome. Alex, how about you from the GC side, right? You're definitely handing the building over. What are you giving your owners as value at the end?
Well, I like to begin with the end in mind, as many of you know, and that phrase sometimes gets overused, but it's super true, because that intentional partnering I mentioned earlier. One thing I like to do at the beginning is have kind of, and I'm a big lean champion. I'm a big fan of last planner system and pull planning. I like to just kind of get down on paper the things that everybody thinks that they need or their value drivers, and then really start to see either overlaps or see if we can eliminate some waste. And a big way that I like to do that is just having that conversation around, what are the value points that you have in your role for your stakeholder group, and then let's see where they kind of fall, and then make some collective decisions together, right? If people don't know what they don't know, then they may not realize that if we go and fly the drone at X point in a project, it yields this type of data and these type of decisions can be made. And if somebody doesn't know that, then maybe they don't see an opportunity there. They don't see an additional value prop. So just kind of having people show their cards at the beginning and see where that falls, and kind of look at it chronologically throughout the life cycle of a collective effort that we're doing, could yield some great things downstream, right? As we look towards, how are we going to effectively hand over this facility or this site to the end users. So a big part of being at the end in mind, in my mind, is just kind of showing your cards and talking about where everybody's value and trigger points are, and then kind of seeing where we can build from that.
Awesome. Great answer. So let's go ahead and move on to question 6. Where's technology innovation leading your firm beyond 2022? So as you're looking to the future and where you guys are going with technology innovation, what do you see as some of the major things that are driving or leading your firm to the future? Let's start with Mike.
Sure. So I think as we look to the future, and we've talked about automation, we've talked about data, talked about the life cycle of the building, and I think we talked about how we impact owners. We also, I think, need to think about how we impact. I think we're all saying this too. How, when we say owner, that's the person that uses the building, the patient, the student. It's the community the building is in. And I think as technology advances and we've got more data and better data, we're going to have an opportunity as engineers. What we do in the building has a big impact, not only on the design and construction, but just how that building operates. And what we're seeing from some of the software and other things that are coming on board, and us being able to really help building owners operate their buildings and make sure it operates as the way it was designed and meets those outcomes. And, I think Bill touched on it, but just earlier, I think we're going to be able to measure not only, we talk about energy, I'm an engineer, talk about energy, that's an easy example. But when we talk about how buildings work, it's also about how the people interact, what kind of quality of care they get, those sorts of things. And right now, a lot of those things are, experience-based, or, this is another building that we liked. And I think that's going to start to get a lot more, as we have more sensors, more data, we're going to be able to make those more, mathematically based, where we can actually make decisions based on data. and use those decisions to drive the building, and then look to see, hey, we've done it. We thought this was how people were going to interact in the building, how we were going to get collaboration. Did that actually work out? And then, not only on the energy side, but just on the general design of buildings, use that data to really drive home really great outcomes for the people that use the buildings we design.
Yeah, awesome. That's hitting on a lot of the industry 4.0 concepts. So and we may end up, there was discussion maybe about doing another topic for SLC3 on what industry 4.0 and that is, and kind of where that goes. So if that's a carrot to bring you guys back for the next one, we'll see if we can get that on the docket for later this year. So Alex, one more from you.
Sure. I go back to, the novel concept of, multiple sources of collaboration or multiple sources of truth, and how we really weave that together. And, I look at it as connecting the project life cycles, what I'll call digital ecosystem, right? Taking digital transformation to the next step, kind of goes into industry 4.0. But the reality is we have all these sources. We're always going to have them. Every firm is going to have their sources of truth or collaboration. How does that really look, though, if we were to create an ideal, utopia scenario? Really that true digital ecosystem that moves from the ownership to a design and construction team to the handover and into the operations of a built asset. I think if we're ever going to really figure out, the ability to do a digital twin, regardless of how you define it from the client standpoint, this idea of a digital ecosystem to progress through the project's life cycle as a design and construction community needs to become tighter, needs to become more integrated. And so probably less about one company going and figuring it out, because we're always going to have lots of great technology providers out there. But how do they become more integrated? How do they talk to each other more? I think it's a huge thing to try and tackle as an industry. But this idea of that connected digital ecosystem, I think, is really a key to success in moving our industry forward, kind of out of the traditional means of you do your work, you do your work, and kick it to me when you're ready. But more of doing our work together and really streamlining the design and construction delivery process. So it's very aspirational. It's a huge challenge for us to try and figure out as an industry. But I think if we all try to do our part to come together project by project, I think we're going to get there at some point. But it's something to realize, hopefully, at some point in the future. We'll see.
So Alex, just to build on that maybe a little bit, how much do you feel of that is culture and not technology, right? Do we have the technology available to do this now? And it's more about culture, because of the contract arrangements or things like that is keeping us from getting there.
I think a big part of it is just, looking for partners that want to build a high performing team. If our clients are looking for, best in class firms and partnerships and people that are aligned and like-minded, we can do a lot of this today, right? The cultural aspect will already be there. I love working with owners and design partners and trade partners that have that collaboration mindset from day one, and it makes it really easy and a lot of fun. Kind of gets us back to, loving what we do every day, right? Yep. But a big part of it is, if the contract method is right and the partnerships are right, it should flow. But on the projects where we don't quite have that alignment early on is where, that idea of that connected digital ecosystem kind of falls down. And so I think a big part of us evolving as an industry is just changing the way that we've always done things and being open-minded, right? That healthy respect for each other's lanes, the healthy respect for each other's thoughts on collaboration. And we have technology to do that today. May not be, 100% seamless, but it's way better than it ever has been. The big part, though, is just, take the example of, what technology is Bill bringing to the table? What's Mike bringing to the table? What's Dylan? What's myself? Bringing that together. And if we, work together on, X project, what are the best ways to fuse this together? And is our team down to do that? And if the answer is yes to all those things, that's why we're here, is to connect those dots and make it happen.
Awesome. Great answer. Great answer. All right, let's wrap this up with one final question here, maybe some quick responses for you guys. What are a few key pieces of advice you'd give to our industry as a whole as we rapidly advance forward with emerging tech and changing the way that we're doing business? What are those key pieces of advice that are great takeaways for not only the owners on this call, but for all of us to take back to our individual groups? Bill.
do things with a reason. So like have an aspirational goal that's far out and work towards that. You avoid the shiny objects if you're chasing your goal and not chasing the shiny object. And so if you do that, you can start to break it up, have the steps to get there. And then if you always keep an eye on what is the value of the thing that you're doing to support the reason for this goal, you won't have troubles adopting and putting in all of these pieces of technology that support the larger goal because you're showing a tangible value, and just never forget it.
Awesome. Great answer. Mike, you're next.
Yeah, I think probably said a little bit different, but a similar thought is focus on what outcome you're trying to achieve. And then, use the technology you need to get there. Don't focus on what technology you might want to use or what shiny object you want to use and go try and use it. Focus on the outcome you want to get, and then pick the technologies that support you achieving that goal, that outcome.
Yep. Fantastic. Dylan, how about you?
I would say, always try to be open-minded, try to be adaptable. Sometimes the old ways aren't always the best, and probably always keep your eye out on new solutions.
Okay. Alex, how about you?
I spend a lot of my time vetting a technology for quite a bit before I then go and crowdsource more support. Largely just because I'm a bit cynical, just seeing some of the shiny stuff out there, and I want to really make sure that with my field construction knowledge that this could actually be used in the field, that the men and women that are actually out there building will be able to benefit from this. So I'm always thinking about the end user first as I'm vetting, but I take a lot of time too to crowdsource. So my advice for you guys is no matter what you're trying to do to move your business forward, take intentional time to vet and validate, and then also get those crowdsource, those other people that are not in your role, that are either the end user or influencers that can then help you, go to other groups and say, hey, we want to confirm that there is value here if we go and invest, whether it's a pilot, whether you're taking something enterprise wide, whatever it might be. So that you don't go and roll something out and the value is only half of what you thought it would be. So really take that time to get that crowdsourcing, get other people that are maybe not in your role or in your lane, really helping to validate and get that support, so that when you go and roll out the red carpet for something new, it's welcomed with open arms.
Awesome. Yep. Great stuff. And I guess I would just tag onto that. My key piece is, and this is kind of a motto I live by on a day-to-day basis, and it's always remain teachable, right? I don't know everything. There's new things that come out every day that I don't know. So I'm always willing to learn from others and learn from other people's approaches, because I don't have it all figured out. I'll never have it all figured out. So remaining teachable is number one in my book. Okay, I think that we're at 10:48. We got about 12 minutes left for questions. So do we got anything in the chat, Brandon, or anything that we can address, or anybody feel like speaking up and asking some questions?
Nothing in the chat. I would just say if you have a question at this point, just feel free to raise your hand or come off mute.
Oh, come on, no crickets. These guys are great. Ask them some questions.
That there's no questions, Chris. We're just gonna start asking you questions.
Which you can do. I'm okay with that.
But that means you guys did a great job, answer all of our questions.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great.
I doubt that.
As Chris said, even we don't have it all figured out.
That's right.
This is a career of constant learning.
Well, based on the questions you get, maybe you did.
I got one for Chris, so I'm gonna take the lead in asking the moderator something.
Okay.
I'm only asking you this though, Chris, because you and I have talked about this extensively. That idea, that conversation around Industry 4.0. Can you just quickly introduce that to people? I think that may be something that may intrigue the audience, and maybe that is a future topic potentially.
Industry 4.0, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So obviously we know we've gone through several iterations of industry adjustment over the years, right? We've had an Industry 1.0, which was the basics of, engines and things like that. Industry, 2.0 was, moving that into a manufacturing space with assembly lines and things like that, where you're taking the machines and putting them together to actually build an assembly line of multiple machines to be able to automate a lot of the processes. Industry 3.0 brings us computers and the whole world of the digital age that came into play. And now Industry 4.0 is taking those the digital side of where we're going as a species, really. It applies to everything, not just our construction, but taking the data that's in there and embedding that in the machines and using that to inform predictive outcomes or to provide intelligence or analytics. So it's starting to merge with some of the upper level technologies like, machine learning and AI. As the data is informed and tied, it allows us to analyze and make predictive insights, make things that can drive things and make decisions for itself based on the inputs that it's getting from other things. So as we move forward into this Industry 4.0 realm, right, what does that mean? Is that, IoT sensors and the connected internet and all of that, how does that really tie into what we're doing in construction? And how can we harness that to provide better value, better cost certainty, better schedule certainty for our clients?
Yeah, no, well said, Chris. I'll tack onto that a little bit because I get a kick out of not just the term, but what is possible, right? I mean, the idea of automation and artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things really connecting these ecosystems together kind of goes back to the comment that I made about that project lifecycle digital ecosystem. If we can really try to harness that, how much better could our industry be? I mean, Bill and Mike talk about fantastic things like design automation, or as Bill says, like designing beyond the building. Like, that's really cool stuff when you really sit back and think about it. How much better could our projects be with some of that stuff truly connected and really driving more efficiency? We'd be designing and building projects in half the time if everybody was doing that and we really had it dialed in. So it's not only very aspirational, but it could be very real if we really tap into that. But it really does take that people equation at the beginning to, like, you got to believe in that. You got to have a contracting method that supports that. And then you got to have the right people putting the right solutions in place to make it efficient, to really make it, to make it run. I don't know, Bill or Mike, got any thoughts to that?
Almost a question back at you of, to give a tangible example. So I was researching on what you can do with IoT in construction and came across IoT sensors for concrete curing. So basically you put it in, you pour the concrete, and instead of giving that safety buffer time of I wait this amount of days because I know for sure it'll be cured, I can see when it's cured. And if you think of like a giant transit project where each pour of concrete, if you can shave off 4 or 5 days on that, the amount like the speed that you can get done, it increases so much. I didn't know if you've looked into any of that or if McCarthy's exploring anything with it.
Yeah, no, we absolutely are. There's tons of opportunity for sensors, without a doubt, right? That can speed up a lot of these things that you have somewhat certainty in. But I think what you're hopefully kind of getting at too is, like, when you have more certainty, how much faster can we move? How much more can we do and have more assurance, right? We're mitigating our risk by having more confidence with data, with these sensors, to be able to keep moving. Short answer, absolutely. It's awesome stuff. And I'm looking for more opportunities for that each day. So Bill, as you do your research, let me know.
Okay. Well, and even the counter thought is, could I design with less tolerance in and have less waste? And the impact of the world, it's pretty hot right now. Like, there's some stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me hit on that real quick, just while we're going here. And not to scare any design professionals, but like the idea with speaking to designing with confidence, is there a potential future state where our design programs, whether it's automation or whether it's productization, could you have catalogs of design elements that have already been vetted and thought through with different scenarios? So if I'm designing for this type of of plot in this type of building, and these are the codes. Do I have a catalog of content that matches, or I have criteria that could be dropped in to not only automate but optimize the design for these criteria? Like, I've seen those things, Bill and Mike, I'm sure you've seen those. Like, those are very intriguing for me, because then as the builder, I could go and procure some of that stuff, long lead items, things like that much earlier. Thinking about prefab, modularization, all that stuff is very enticing for us, which drives down cost.
Good stuff.
I mean, I think on the productization side, the thing that I talk about is, I mean, how many wall hung lavatories are done are done every year, and they're all very similar to each other, and most of them are built by hand in the field.
Stick built.
And how, really to drive that productization is scale, and how do we get to scale? I think the other thing I just like what Alex talked about is the whole collaboration and the people. And I mean, anytime I think about projects that I really enjoyed, it was a great team of people that all came together to achieve a common goal. And I think with technology, it's that same teamwork, but we just have a greater opportunity using that technology to be more efficient and to be even better. And when you can get that group together that has that same thought process, it's fun, and I think you get a better result.
Just to build a little bit on kind of what Bill was saying, one of the big concepts that CRB is embracing right now is designing for fabrication, right? So that we're thinking about the fabrication and how this thing is built at the design level. So, something as simple as designing to even dimensions, or in a modular 8x8 way inside of a clean room space, or things like that, so that very easily we can apply some prefabrication opportunities to the design, because it's designed in a way that allows us to modularize it.
Chris, I love that. So you're trying to get rid of fractions, huh? Not a fractions fan? Get rid of those fractions?
Yes. I like even dimensions.
Yeah. Dylan, is that music to your ears? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it. Because we do the same thing. I mean, it's a lot easier for the guys to install it in the field. We do the exact same thing on all of our drawings. We try to put it to a whole number, or a half inch, or an even number. Anything that's going to speed up the guys in the field, anything that's going to speed up the things in the shop. That's the name of the game for us, is all prefab. I mean, we try to prefab as much as we can. I know I heard bathrooms. We prefab all of our bathrooms that we can. We make them in our shop, and it's plug and play in the field. We prefab our hangers. We ground those all the way up 2, 4, 6 foot, and those come out already pre-cut, and then they just trim them off in the field. So yeah, all the data that's coming down, it gives us as a subcontractor a lot of good opportunities to enhance our prefab.
I'll take the counter opinion. If robot fabrication is happening, I don't care about dimensions. And if you ask me enough questions, I get to the point where the only jobs that are left are like astronauts and comedians, because I don't know how to automate them. And like it's one of those things of like where we're going. And I just saw Northern Arizona University, they're having a robot paint the football field. They used to have 3 people do it and spend the entire day to measure these things out, and they just give it a design file and then it does it. And prefab, you're doing that because you don't have people to install it in the field, not just reducing the time, but actually being able to build the building, because eventually we have a problem. So to me, I don't care about dimensions.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Looks like we're pretty close to time here. Brandon, you want to take us home? Kelly?
Kelly, I'll turn it over to you if you want to wrap things up.
I'm just unmuting and all of the above. So sorry about that. Okay, so obviously this is a tremendous amount of information that everybody is walking away from today, and clearly you've answered everybody's questions, and so you apparently did an amazing job, because I can't say that I know everything that you talked about, but it was right on track from everything we planned to talk through today. So thank you so much. First and foremost, Brandon, thank you for emceeing. I know All the owners always love doing this role, so I appreciate that very much. And Chris, thanks for moderating. Bill, Mike, and Dylan, and Alex, thanks so much for being the panelists. Alex, thanks for stepping up to help put this program together. It does take a village to put all of our efforts together for all of our events for the SLC3. So we really appreciate the Training Education Committee, the Technology Committee. And speaking of the Technology Committee, if you are interested in participating on our Technology Committee, Alex would love to have your participation. So he always loves when I really pick on him for that. But we would love to have more speakers and more topics and ideas. So this is the group that's clearly interested. So let us know what you're interested in hearing about. And we always welcome our speakers back, of course. So those who are speakers today, come on back. And then I do want to remind everyone about the survey. It is really important that you complete those surveys that we send out. It only takes a couple of minutes. If you go ahead and do that for us, then we have a better understanding. You can write in what types of things you want to see and what you liked and didn't like. And making that constructive is very helpful to us. So we appreciate that. And then just a reminder, our website's filled with resources and information, our latest events. So we hope to see you at the next event. And then I hope everybody has a great day. Appreciate it.
Thanks a bunch,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.